Hey Maria, thank you for
How you
joining
doing?
us. I'm good. I'm good. How are you
Well,
doing?
I'm good. Thanks for hosting. I'm all right. How has your Sunday been?
It's been
You've got
wonderful.
permit?
Yeah, permit.
Really? Busy? Busy or relaxing
Hi.
and enjoying?
Hi,
Hello.
Maria. How are you?
I'm
Hi.
good. And yourself?
Yeah, doing good.
Welcome.
So,
Thank you so much.
Pramith has been like a member of my discussions group for like forever. Since,
Oh, really? He's a veteran.
He's a veteran, yeah.
That's cool. I've never done a Zoom big, like, joint call before, so I'm glad you're managing that, David, because
Oh my gosh, this is awesome.
we don't want to mess it up.
I've never seen so many people all at once.
Wow.
Hey, Indar, great to see you, man.
Grammar.
Hi, David. Thank you. It's been a long time. I didn't join you.
Yeah, it's all good, man. I know how it gets. I know it gets busy, but it's good to see you today.
Thank you. And hello, Maria.
Hi, Anna. Welcome.
Thank you. Looking forward to hearing the subject grammar from you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Wow. Everyone's so hardworking on a Sunday night. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
Cool.
Shall we wait for a few more people to join before we start, I guess? Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a lot of new faces as well. That's awesome. Okay. We've got Sumedh.
Exciting.
Great to see you, man. Let's get a wave from you just to know you can hear us. Yeah. Great. Or a thumbs up, that works as well. All right, cool. Okay, all right. Well, we've got most of us here. I think we can probably get started. So welcome everybody. Thank you all so much for being here. Really appreciate you all taking the time out of a Sunday to come and hang out with us. Maria is here. Maria's been super kind to make time to come and talk to us about grammar. It's something that she's got plenty of experience in. And I would say that that's something that she excels at probably a lot, way more than I do. Now, one thing I'm going to ask from all of you, so hi Natalia, thank you for joining us, is could everyone just please make sure that your mics are muted? This isn't like a webinar, it's just a regular Zoom call. I hope you all came with your questions regarding grammar. At the end of today's session, we're going to take questions from all of you. So, and we'll most probably have time to go through most of it. Maria, how are you for time? Have you got a rush straight after?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't know how long you were planning to keep us here, or everyone wanted 5 hours. Or I'm happy to stay for as long as necessary. I'm joking. Okay. No one wants 5 hours of grammar, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh dear.
All right. Well, let's get started. Maria, I've got some questions for you, and we'll kind of just go through and knock them out the way. Start off, excellent. Maria. Who are you? Tell us a little bit more about you. How did you get into teaching? What's your story?
All right, thank you for the questions, David. So, hi everyone. Thank you once again for joining. I'm Maria. I originally was born in Russia, Siberia, but I grew up in London, UK. All right, so my original background was in teaching. I come from finance business background. But about 6 years ago, guys, it was a complete experiment, something new to try with my life. I tried teaching and I realized how much I love it, how passionate I am, and how much I love seeing my students learn and progress. And, you know, I've been teaching ever since, just can't stop, can't get enough of it. Does that answer the question? Is there anything else you think I should add, David?
Absolutely
in terms of,
I mean, that was perfect. Perfect.
Thank you.
Maria, we're here to talk about grammar. Everybody here has probably gone through my courses and in which I do say things like, you know, don't worry about grammar. And I say that with within a very specific context. I do still think grammar is important. And I do still believe that we should study grammar. But from your experience, why does grammar even matter? Why can't we just learn a language without looking at grammar at all, like completely zero? What difference does that make for us?
Sure, it's a very multifaceted question. I think it's a big question. So guys, the fact that you are here, I guess you think grammar is important, otherwise you wouldn't have come. But I don't know if you noticed the recent tendency of a lot of teachers on Instagram saying, forget grammar, screw grammar, F grammar. I'm not going to say the whole word. But to be honest, what I think, and I'm sure this is what you mean, well, I hope this is what you mean, David, is that grammar shouldn't matter, as in you shouldn't wait until you're 100% perfect before you decide to communicate to people, which I think holds back a lot of English learners. They think until I become fluent or at least upper intermediate in grammar including, I will not speak, I will not practice, okay, because I will make a mistake. And that's where I think grammar shouldn't stop you from communication, because at the end of the day, we learn the language to communicate with other people, among other reasons, but that's one of the big ones. However, I think if you don't have any grammar structure, first of all, you cannot build the sentence in a way that's clear. For example, I have a lot of students, and I think it's a general tendency. Everyone loves present simple, present tense. They think that's the best tense, that's the most comfortable one for them, and they use it for everything, to talk about what they're doing now, what they did in the past, what they're planning to do in the future. All right. They just think, let's stick to present simple and that will be safe. You know, what's the danger? The person you're talking to will not really understand if you're talking about right now. It actually happened to one of my students recently. Just before the lesson, he wrote to me. He's upper intermediate, B2 level student. Okay. And he wrote to me, he said, I turn on computer. Okay. So I was sitting there thinking, is he turning on the computer? Has he turned on the computer? What is he trying to tell me? You know, and that's the instance where it does matter, because the grammar helps you to communicate your message clearly and make sure that you are understood. All right. I hope that kind of answers the question in a nutshell.
Yeah, for sure. Maria, based on what you just shared with us, like, has that been, you speak multiple languages besides just Russian and English, which are probably the ones that you grew up using. Has that been what you just shared with us, the importance of studying grammar and how that affects how clearly you communicate? Has that been a part of your learning journey with other languages?
I think for sure, yeah, because people if you use the wrong past tense, people are not sure if you're implying something that's connected to now or something in a distant past. And to an extent, yes. To an extent, yes, it does help. So just to add to the clarity of communication, the other thing is, I think that what everyone really wants to achieve that is to, or most students do, is to have a level where not only are they clearly understood, but they sound like, you know, I'm sure everyone is intelligent and everyone has a good education background or studies and likes to study. But when they speak a native language, they are afraid that they do not come across as intelligent as they do in their own language. And to an extent, that's where grammar helps, because if you know grammar well, you can come across as intelligent as you are in your own native language, I think. Of course, it takes time to get there. Like I said, it shouldn't stop you from speaking in the meantime, but I think it does help you match the level that you want to, the image that you want to project on other people, be that at work, be that, when you're traveling. People do take notice. I mean, they will not super judge you for mistakes, but if you speak in the language like English correctly, it just creates a good impression that you care enough to have learned the language correctly and properly. And it helps to build a relationship as well with another person, I think. And yes, that has been experienced in my, with learning, for example, Spanish. When you speak Spanish to people, you try to speak correctly, you try to speak the way that they do. I think Spanish are a little bit more tolerant of mistakes, to be honest, than say British people are, or American people are. But still, there's this appreciation, and people just, they don't say it out loud. They will not tell you directly to your face, but you can feel that they value that you made the effort and showed appreciation towards the language and towards the culture. And I think grammar is one of the aspects that helps you to achieve that. Sorry.
Maria, here's a big question, and this is probably where some of us are actually going to want to take notes. According to you, from your experience, are there what you would call mistakes? If you can think of 3 big mistakes that people make with either teaching grammar or trying to improve their grammar, what would they be?
That's a good question.
Or 3 things they should avoid?
I'm going to have to speak from my experience, and I think experience is individual, but one is, of course, not practicing enough the grammar. So I always encourage my individual students to, whenever they learn a new piece of grammar, make your own examples, speak to me, to your speaking partner, to your plant or your cat, if you like, but put that grammar in. Depends on the level of insanity. I speak to my plants all the time, don't worry, it's fine. But just put that into practice. So what I say is they get too fixated on either learning the theory or just practicing without coming back to theory. So I think the best combination is always theory, practice, a bit of back and forth in between. It does take time, it does take effort, but that means that you really understand and can apply it in practice, what you have learned. Okay, so not practicing enough is one of the top ones. Just trying to think of, it depends if someone tries to learn by themselves or with a professional teacher, but I think one, and I'm not saying it's a mistake of my students per se, but I've had advanced or upper intermediate students who came to me. They had wonderful comprehension in reading and listening, but they still had gaps in intermediate grammar. That's why I started with this course, because I think that's when it gets a bit complex. So I don't know if it was because they went to the wrong teachers, if that was because they just didn't have a holistic system, they were just trying to cherry pick things. Maybe they didn't go in depth enough to fully understand the grammar nuances that they should have. But I feel like, and we do realize that these gaps stop them from moving forward in terms of the grammar and structures to be able to communicate, to write, to speak, etc. So that's the second one. I don't know. I don't know if that's their fault for not choosing the right program or the right teacher, or is the fault of the teachers that they chose. Perhaps they didn't know how to explain grammar. Perhaps they didn't give enough attention or enough practice. That kind of is the mistake there. Third one, I'm kind of on the spot here now.
Could I kind of ask you to elaborate a little bit more on the second one? That might turn into a third one. Okay. From a teacher's perspective, sure. What is a mistake this is for me, I'm hijacking this because I'm hosting today. What is a mistake? So for me as a teacher, what is a mistake that I can make when I'm trying to help my students with their grammar?
I think just assuming that they can read through the rules and then just off they go. And as a teacher, just reading through what's in the book, whatever course or book they are teaching, just read off it and that's it.
Yeah.
I think it took me some time to come up with, and I hope teachers do that, you know, good teachers do that, I hope and I think, is to find the shortcuts, to find the logical ways to explain grammar, to what, you know, sorry, to go back to the course that I've created, is to visualize it, you know, to put it in a sort of visual representation that's easier to understand and easier to absorb and comprehend, and to be able to then apply it appropriately. So, you know, a lot of my students came from other academies or other teachers. So obviously there was something missing there because they haven't learned that properly.
Yeah.
And when I ask them the questions, you know, it's always the same things that they are missing in their knowledge, or similar things that come up time and time again. Does that answer the question? Or
Yeah, absolutely. So like I've seen the same thing happen so much, plenty of times. I mean, my whole social media career was a result of me trying to make videos to answer the common questions that my students had. And many of my students are intermediate. They already can speak and communicate in English. And this was back when I was teaching one-to-one lessons 2-3 years ago. And for those students who always ask me like the same sorts of questions, I wanted to create videos that they can watch outside of lesson time so that we can use the lesson time to practice speaking more. I don't want to explain grammar rules in my lessons. And so that's how it started. And I was always wondering, I was like, wait, these grammar rules, these questions that they have, they're in the books. They're in the books that we've used and they've used. Why are they still not clear on these? Why are they still making mistakes on these? Why do they still have questions about these? And so it's, and now it makes sense. It's because in the past, they may have had teachers who just teach exactly what's in the book and nothing more. There's no explaining, there's no simplification of those grammar rules that are in the book. And I guess that's probably where a teacher actually comes in. Now, you mentioned that you created a course, intermediate level grammar. I mean, I just shared what motivated me to create my social media page. What inspired you to create that course?
I think I'm going to have to repeat exactly what you've just said. The initial thought was, you know, I explained something once, twice, third time. Then I realized it's the same or very similar pattern for most students. And I thought, why am I, you know, first of all, we're wasting time in the lesson, in my opinion, that they can go and do this in their own time and listen to me explain. Secondly, they can go over it twice, 3 times, 4 times if they need to. Okay, so I just saw the value of that for my students, but then I thought, hold on, but what about the rest of students? Maybe they don't have an individual teacher like me, or maybe they study in an academy, or maybe they are independent students. They should have the same opportunity. So I really, the way I used to explain directly in the lessons, now I just say, guys, go get the grammar course and everything I explain to you, you will have it there and it will save your time, honestly. But I just thought, why not give the opportunity for people, for other learners to have the same access to the same quality, the same explanations, and just put an end to people just having these gaps in their knowledge. They don't need to be there, to be honest. Just have their answers, have their questions, answered, and have the gaps filled. So yeah, that was my motivation, basically.
Awesome. That is extremely generous. And also, Maria, I want to thank you. I'm so grateful. I'm so glad that you actually agreed to make that course also available. Like previously, you had it on just Udemy, right?
Yeah.
Right. And
that's what
it's not just on Udemy anymore. Like for the longest time, I was wanting to create a grammar course. And as I'm pretty busy with my full-time job and everything, I wasn't actually able to get around to it. And then I learned about your course, and you gave me a preview of it as well, and I loved what I saw. So I asked you if you'd be willing to make that available to my students, and you very generously agreed. So I want to say thank you. Now, Maria, you're running a promotion on that course right now, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Tell us more about that.
So the current price, the promotional price is $9, and that gives you full access to the whole course, lifetime access, as long as me and David are still alive and kicking.
As long as we're still
Sorry,
friends.
that sounded really dark. But basically, yeah, I honestly think that you'll pay more for a grammar book. You'll pay more for individual lesson with a professional teacher. I can't think of a lower price. The actual price, it will go up to after, I think, I'm thinking in a week or two, I will raise the price back to the original, but it's still only $13, guys. I know it's a price tag, of course, but I think in terms of the value that you get in, the explanations and everything, and I asked my actual students to feedback to me to say, what do you think? Is it clear? Is it easy to understand? Do I need to change or improve anything? And guys, I'm still, by the way, the course is complete, but I'm still working on it. I'm still adding quizzes. I'm adding some sections. I'm adding some little videos and bits. So, you know, for that price, you will also get more in the future. So that's that in terms of pricing and the content that you get for it.
That's awesome. That is extremely affordable. Wait, why aren't you pricing it higher when, like, normally, because I've seen like the amount of content there is and like the number of chapters and what you've actually covered in it. Why aren't you charging more when you could?
I want to give opportunity to more people than less. You know, I don't want to just to restrict how many students can learn from it. I want to spread the knowledge to as many people as possible. And if anything, I think when you see a high price, you kind of think maybe yes, maybe not. Is it worth it? Is it not? I just hope this price just kind of says, okay, you know, I've got nothing to lose. I'm sure we'll learn something, and guys, you'll be more than, I hope, surprised by how much you will learn, and you'll think, no, that should have been higher price, but it's great that it was cheaper than I expected it to be. I'm not trying to, honestly, I'm not trying to oversell it. I just know how long it took me to build that knowledge, how long it took me to come up with those conclusions, and the best way to explain the shortcuts, so to speak. Honestly, I think it's really, really valuable because I've seen it with my students. You know, if it wasn't valuable, they would have known it before they came to me, but they didn't. So, you know, I hope that justifies the price.
Awesome. Well, Maria, thank you. Thank you for me, and I'm sure everybody here is watching. They really appreciate you as well. By the way, for those of you who are watching, you're probably thinking, okay, where can I go? How can I actually enroll in the course? It's on my website, davidscourses.com. In the chat, I'm going to post a link to the grammar course itself. So right now it's discounted at $9, and that's only thanks to Maria being so generous. And she will raise the price in the future to $13, which I still think is a bargain if you would like to enroll, which I think is definitely going to help you with your grammar. The link is in the chat. Feel free to click that. You can get enrolled. And the next thing we're going to do is what you've all been super excited about. I'm going to stop talking so that you guys can ask questions. So for anyone who has a grammar question, please just raise your hand. Like, I don't mean like on the video, but if you could click the raise hand button on Zoom, and I'm just going to ask you to unmute yourself and you can ask your question, and we'll go through it that way. Maria, I'm going to make you the host so that you can share your screen and do the whiteboard thing if you want. And cool. Off you go. So we've got the first raise hand from Sumed. And you're going to have to ask Sumed to unmute. Actually, I think Sumed, you should be able to just unmute yourself and go.
Yeah, I think I asked to mute as well.
Yeah.
Oh, what happened?
Hello, David. Hello, Maria.
Hi, Sumed. Hi.
So my question is, I'm currently a college student pursuing my bachelor's of business administration. And I'm also like interested in competitive exams where they have particular sections on verbal and then quantitative. So in verbal, there are a ton of rules in there. Like I know memorizing them is like the worst thing that I can do. I'm very aware of that. Like like David always specifies it, so I know it very well. And it's like, what should be like the best way to actually be very aware of all these rules, really like internalizing it, if I have to put it in terms. So that's my question.
Very good question, Sumit. Yeah, there are plenty of rules to cover. I think firstly, you should start with the trickiest ones, right? Because I'm sure some of them are easier than others. So just try to sort of sort out maybe it's one of my suggestions to sort out with the hardest one, maybe medium hard, and then the ones that you already kind of know. And the second thing is, if you actually understand them, like you said, internalizing process comes with practice, okay? So try to create your own sentences in writing, in speaking. I don't know if you have a speaking partner or a teacher who can give you some feedback on whether or not those sentences are correct, but you have to put that grammar, those grammar rules into practice to see if you actually understand them, okay? To kind of test yourself in a way. I'm not sure.
Cool. Sumit, thank you for the question.
Did I answer your question or?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sumit. Anyone else? It's open floor. You're all welcome to raise your hand and just ask your question. Don't be shy. We're not judging. Pramit, go ahead, man. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, Maria, once again. Yeah, I have a question
Hi,
for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way we learn our mother tongue. So we were not concerned
the way we learn is?
The way we learn our mother tongue?
Mother tongue.
Okay. Yes, it's
so we were
tongue.
not concerned about the grammar. Even we didn't think about it. Whatever we were hearing from our parents in our surroundings, we acquired that, and over a period of time, we got this fluency in our mother tongue. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So
True.
How does it matter to have control over grammar, especially when we talk about English?
Very good. Good. Is that's the question? Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very nice comparison. Yes, because I think you're right that a lot of adult learners are hoping that they can just pick up the language naturally, like just absorb it. And I have to speak from experience. I moved to the UK during late childhood. So I was exposed to a combination of learning the language myself actively, as well as natural, sort of picking up words, expressions, the right way to structure the sentences, okay? Haven't heard stories from other people who moved to the UK. Those who moved at a younger age picked it up naturally. Okay, they didn't have to study grammar, sit with books, etc. However, those who moved later, okay, those who didn't make the effort to learn the grammar, they are still speaking with mistakes. And it doesn't matter if they lived in the country 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, even 20 years. They still make mistakes because they never studied systematically. So I think you can expect, like you said, a mother tongue as a child to absorb naturally. You cannot expect this to happen as an adult, okay? And I always say that as an adult, learning language is both intuitive and logical, okay? The intuitive part does come from listening, reading, picking things up, all right, from different sources. But there is also the logical part, and that's where grammar structure helps, understanding the rules and applying them, okay? I really do disagree with teachers on Instagram, I'm not going to name them, I'm not going to shame them, but they went, why would you sit and learn third conditional? Just listen to this phrase and you'll just pick it up and that's it. Partially true, you can learn that phrase, okay? But what about when you have to use another phrase or a slightly different structure in your speech and you don't really understand what's happening logically? I think the older we become, the more logical learners we become. We don't learn as much by intuition or just picking things up anymore as children do. We really need to put sort of logical structures around things. So I think that's where grammar helps. Does that answer your question, Pramit?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks.
Pleasure.
Cool. All right. Really? There's 23 of us here and only 2 questions? All right, Natalia, thank you so much.
Wonderful.
And Randish as well has got his hand raised. Okay, cool.
Excellent.
Thank you.
I have a question. I think when we're trying to speak English and we study in grammar, we need some time to choose which structure to use here. Past simple, past perfect, present perfect, and then our speech becomes like slow speech. How to avoid this problem of spending time on thinking? What we choose here? What preposition? What kind of preposition we need to choose here? Because it's time. For example, I can make many exercises without mistakes. But when I need to speak, I don't speak the same without mistakes. So my question is how to make this grammar automatically inside of our speech process.
Absolutely. Very good question. So I'm also a language learner. I don't know if David mentioned that I do learn languages as well as a foreigner. So one thing that I found is really useful is before, so you said you do the exercise and then you have a conversation. And I can bet you that those exercises and the conversation you have are on different topics, probably. They're not the same thing, right? So what you can do before you talk to someone, try to maybe predict a little bit what you will talk about. If you have a business meeting or if you have a meeting with someone on some specific topic, try to predict in advance what you will talk about. And then think ahead, what kind of structures can I use about my past experience, my present, my future? Okay, so that will help you to have automatically prepared some structures. Okay, then after you can't always predict the conversations. Okay, life is unpredictable and it would be very boring if we could predict every conversation we have with everyone. So I think what you can do then is to do like an analysis, right? After you've had your conversation, as I do sometimes when I have like my French lesson, I sit and I think through what we talked about, the notes I made, and I try to recreate the conversation in my head out loud, but just going back over to those structures. Did I use the right structure here? Did I use the right tense here? So I think that advanced thinking and backward sort of analysis can help you to sort of automate it and move away from those exercises in the book, which help you to kind of understand the rules, but do not prepare you for the actual speaking world. I don't know, does that help, that technique? Have you tried it, Natalia, yourself, or?
No. Thank you. I will try.
Pleasure. Good luck.
Cool. Thank you, Natalia. Does anyone else have a question? Don't be shy.
Go ahead, Randesh.
Yeah. Randesh, yeah, go ahead, man.
Okay. So I just have a small question. Is it essential for us to memorize all these tenses, like those past participles, and there are lots of tenses? So to master the grammar, do we need to memorize all these types of tenses. I don't know. Like I think there are quite a lot.
Yeah, it is quite a lot. You're absolutely right. So I recommend you start with the most important ones firstly. I mean, like I said, if you make a little mistake here and there in communication, it's not the end of the world. And I do emphasize that throughout my course, when it doesn't make a huge, it doesn't create a huge problem if you make a mistake here and there. But if you want to get to the level of fluency and accuracy in communication, I'm sorry to say, yes, you do have to learn the structure. So the way I laid out the course, and I hope it's useful for you to just, because when you start learning tenses, it's everything together, how to use it, when to use it, what's the negative, what's the question form, all right? So the way I separated it is, firstly, you learn the structure, how to make a positive statement, negative, question, and short answer. And then you learn how to use it in the right context. So I think by separating those two and then bringing them together, of course, when you start using the tenses, can maybe help simplify it a little bit before you have to sort of make it more complex. Just work through them step by step. And I think, yes, you're right to mention there are too many tenses probably in English. And on this intermediate course, I specifically didn't include past perfect continuous. I don't know if it rings a bell, guys, the name of the tense or not. Had done or had been doing. Okay, that's the one I'm talking about. I didn't include it because I don't think it's essential for communication. I don't think so. You use it every now and then, but you don't use it all the time. It's not necessary. So before you go there, I left it out. I left out future perfect. I left out future perfect continuous because it's more advanced grammar. It's used in very specific situations, and I think it's not necessary at intermediate level. So I hope it helps that I left out some sections that I don't think are essential for communication and for intermediate level. Does that help? Or, I mean, I don't know, just...
Thank you. It's back to you. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, Randash, for the question. Thanks.
Endar's got his hand up, and Murat as well after that.
Okay. I would like to introduce myself a little bit, as you, then I will come to the questions. I'm actually a PhD student in a university in Italy, and in terms of speaking, I a little bit think that I lack opportunity to speak because normally people here speak in Italiano, but I have many writing activities, and but the condition is I am spoiled by the condition that for instance I can use Grammarly, you know, the tools, and then even my scholarship provide me the fund for proofreading and editing, so that's make me, you know, like not naturally can use the grammar, especially in speaking. So this is maybe quite a general question that if you, I know that you mentioned before that we need to learn the theory and then try to practice it. Learn the theory again, then practice it. But you have a specific another suggestion for my conditions. And I remember also you mentioned that in your course you didn't put the past perfect tense and continuous tense. I was remembering like 5 years ago, I took IELTS academic test, and in the speaking section, I forced myself to use that tenses, and it was my mistake that make my speaking not naturally sounds like, you know, and then I made my mistake, and then that was only 6 overall, and the worst score was the speaking section. But the question was
yourself.
Yeah, maybe you have another specific suggestion, like condition, my condition to improve my.
Sorry, but did you
become natural? Okay.
So it's nice. Thank you for listening so carefully, that you picked up that you try to force the grammar onto your speaking just because it's expected. Unfortunately, with exams, you can impress the examiners by using complex structures. But if you do get flustered, instead of it helping you and it just sort of just making you nervous and using it incorrectly, just leave it. And like you said, it didn't come in naturally. You've kind of forced it a little bit. Yeah.
Correctly.
So your question is how to practice the grammar or other aspects of the language. Do you speak English to anyone at all, or you only do writing, as you said? Yeah. So you speak Italian at the moment to everyone. You don't speak English.
For daily life, I just speak with my friend. But in this condition, in the COVID situation, I rarely came to the university, and I also communicate with my supervisor, and most of the time with the email. By email. So that's, and with the email, I can use the Grammarly. So these situations make me, I don't know. Let's say it's sometimes I think it's not necessary, because when I writing, I have this Grammarly.
You can think through. You can
can give me more motivation, especially in speaking skills, to improve this with the good grammar. And if you have any suggestion.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for the question. And so I think, like I said, you can talk to your plant or the wall or the cat, that's to yourself. I often find myself speaking phrases, having a conversation with myself in my head or out loud. So that's one way you can practice. It might sound crazy, but it does work and it does help. Just having, those your jaw muscles, just having the English words come out of your mouth and the structure, trying to remember the correct thing and try to put it in the right form. Okay. The other thing, I don't know how limited for time you are, but these days, I think, I'm sure you can probably find a great speaking partner here, that you can find another English learner about your level, a little bit high, a little bit lower, but someone you can just speak to and practice with. I know some people say that there is a danger that the other person is making a mistake and you will just learn it and pick it up. So my French is not perfect, and I do practice with another learner whose French is probably grammar is much worse than mine. But when I hear her mistakes, it actually helps me. It's like, hold on, that's not right. That's not right. I go and check. And her making mistakes actually helps me to remember what the right rules are. And then I give her feedback, and as I'm explaining things to her or reminding things to her about the grammar, it helps me as well. So I think really having another person to practice with can help for sure. Professional teacher is another thing that you can, of course, look for. It's, of course, the most expensive option, as David speaks on his Fluency course. It's the most expensive option, but it's the most effective, of course, but you need to dedicate time and of course, financial resources to it. So those three, I think, are the key options to, to practice actual speaking and trying to think about grammar in that time and put it into practice. And the other thing is that I think is helpful is if you watch some films or videos or listen to podcasts or listen to the radio in English, when you hear some structure that you've studied in the book, you're like, that's second conditional, or that's passive, that's passive past perfect or present perfect passive. Like, see how they use it, see how the speakers use it in their speech, and I think just recognizing that can help you then to put it into your own communication. Does that help? And does it give you some ideas on how to?
Yeah. Thank you for the suggestion. And actually, recently I practiced with Randes also, and then for sure I will join your course for the grammar.
Thank you.
And we've got Murat.
Murat has his hand up. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Murat.
Thank you for your sharing your experiences with us. I want to ask a question. If our mother language family group is different than English family group, it can be force ourselves when we learn this English. I want to ask this question because I live in Turkish and my mother language is Turkish, is different from English. And I haven't a good ability about learning English, and I try to find a cover this this less ability of me. And my question is this. Thank you.
So if I understand the question correctly, you want to see if you can force the language because the Turkish language is very different, or what's the best way, or I'm not sure.
The family group of the language is different. The English is
yes, of course.
Indian and Europe group, and Turkish is Asian group. It's a different family group. It can be forced us. Can this force us anytime? I want to ask.
Well, I think it's not impossible. I think the challenge is sometimes to it's a different language, different way of thinking, completely different world. So I understand. I don't speak Turkish, unfortunately, so I can't speak for similarities or differences in terms of structures. But what I find that helps to, for example, my French or Spanish or Russian students is to look for, if there are any similarities, look for them. I think those connections between your mother tongue and English can help, if there are any. If there aren't any, I think, I'm a little bit not sad, but I think you shouldn't say you're not a good English learner. I think you said firstly. Do not say that about yourself, because I think the fact that you learn it, you're already a good learner. You're making an effort, you are already a good learner. It might take you more effort than you expect or that you thought previously, or than it takes maybe to another someone whose language may be somewhat more similar to English in some ways. But I think really do not put yourself like in a position to say, I can't do it, I'm not very good. I'm sure you are. And I'm sure you can find a way to make it work, So I would say embrace the language. So one barrier I've seen, and I still see with students, is when they hear some structure or something new, like prepositions. I think Natalia mentioned earlier that prepositions can be a nightmare. Is people go, why? But this is different from my language. But why is it like this in English? But so the first reaction is to block the language, to go, no, this is different. I do not accept it, or I do not understand it. That's why I try to explain the grammar to make it more logical, so that you can maybe accept it better and absorb it better. But I think one thing is embrace the language that you are learning. Understand that it's a different way of thinking. It's a different world. It's not the same as your mother tongue. So I think just changing a little bit the way you think about it, your mindset, can really help you a lot about learning. Sometimes, I don't know if you guys notice, sometimes you learn it without any desire. You're like, oh, this is hard. Why? And you're just not getting anywhere. Like, you're just stuck in the same place. You're not getting it. You're just not progressing. And then one day you're just like more enthusiastic, more motivated, and suddenly things start clicking faster and better. So I think change, if you feel negative, you feel like, why is English so different? It is. And I think the fact that you're learning a language so different to your mother tongue is already an amazing thing that you're doing. So I wish you, all of the luck, Murat, and energy and passion and motivation to keep going with it. All right, don't stop.
Thank you.
Murat, if you don't mind, I want to just add one little thing from my experience. I speak 4 different languages, and they all come from different groups. Grammatically, they're all very different. But what this is something that's scientifically tested and documented, which is every time you learn a new language, any language, you actually become better at learning languages in general. So you get to learn more languages more efficiently and quicker. So, you know, for you starting out with these two different languages that are very different, once you actually do get to a certain level with, let's say, English, which is, let's say it's your first, second language, that's going to open up the doors to start learning even more languages more effectively. And you know, that can make the world a lot smaller than it is right now. I mean, it's already a small world, but it'll make it even more small, or even smaller, and it's super cool when you connect with people from all the world. It's one of the coolest things about learning languages. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we're at 50 past. We've got time for one more question before we head off. Prashant, very quick to raise his hand. Go ahead, man.
Hey, hi, good evening all. I got a question to David.
Oh, it's for me.
Yes. Maybe this is out of context actually. Basically, I work for a Japanese firm.
Right.
Actually, this year, and I'm planning to come to Japan.
Okay. Yeah.
So there is a condition that I should learn Japanese. So
Right.
can you suggest any books or any courses?
Ooh.
Some basic Japanese I should learn. It seems that's the condition.
Basic Japanese. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
If it's basic, there is tons of content on YouTube of like basic stuff. We're talking about like everyday greetings, interactions, buying something at the grocery store, that sort of stuff. You'll be able to find, or introductions, you know, that sort of level. You'll find.
I think so. I should work in a company, but
Yeah.
I guess that is not enough. I should talk with them, the clients, or like that. So I guess intermediate will be better.
Okay, so it's not basic then.
It's not basic. Sorry,
It's not
I will change
basic
it.
then. Okay.
Change.
Okay. I don't know if anybody else is here trying to learn Japanese, but there's a series of textbooks that's really popular with foreigners here who come here to study Japanese. And the series of books is called Minna no Nihongo, which means everybody, or everybody's Japanese, or Japanese for everybody.
Okay.
That's what it means. And so if you search this on like Amazon or something like that, you might find the books.
Okay.
Even if not on like regular Amazon, you'll find it somewhere on the internet. And I would suggest, and they've got like beginner level all the way up to advanced. So starting with their beginner level book in this series, I think is a good place to start.
Yes. Thank you, David.
Most welcome. Okay.
Yeah, regarding the grammar doubts, I will enroll in the course. That's why I didn't have any doubt.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, I will enroll. Yeah, thank you. Yes.
This is supposed to be questions for Maria. Thank you for the question, Prashant. We'll take one more question for Maria, and then we'll wrap things up. Zasulan, he's got a question. Go ahead.
Hey, Maria. Hey, David.
Hi.
My question is a little tricky. So I don't remember exactly where I did this information, but the point is, just imagine a child who is learning his mother tongue, and before he goes to, or she goes to the school, they become fluent in their English, but in their language, but they don't never study for grammar. So somebody says that it's better to learn particular phrases or particular structure rather than learning grammar. So my question is, I just want to learn I just want to know your opinion. Do you agree with this or not? Thank you.
I spaced out the Japanese then, sorry. But so once again, the question, so it's a child who learns naturally, can they benefit from learning grammar? Do I understand correctly? How old is the child? Or I mean, are you asking specifically for your child, or generally speaking?
Okay, so no, the idea is when a child learns his mother tongue, he never learns grammar. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and without grammar,
not for Russian, because not for Russian. I don't know about your native language. For Russian, you study grammar until you're like quite old. Because it's very complex. So I have to disagree with that. I'm sure Natalia can support me that Russian grammar is pretty tough. But okay, so back to your. Are you talking about an English child, like someone who's an English child or an English native child?
No matter which language, generally. So before they go to the school, they become fluent, but they don't study for grammar. So my question is, like, is it better to learn particular phrases that we use in a daily life, or like, so which one is like a more benefit?
What's the best approach? What's the best way? Yes. Yeah. So I think we had a kind of a similar question earlier, but happy to explain again. And I think it's a good question. Like I said, learning a language is a combination of practice and theory. And yes, you're right. Like as I said earlier, a child does absorb things like a sponge more naturally. I disagree that they're fluent before they go to school. They might learn some phrases and some context, but they still have so much to learn. And there are so many native English speakers who speak with mistakes or, make mistakes every now and then. Obviously, they hadn't bothered to learn the rules, in the past. So I think as an adult learner, you just can't say, I'm going to pick up things naturally, unless you immerse yourself and you are every day watching things, reading things. But I think still having that structure around this, I think learning a language is such a big task. It's such a big world, another language, that I think if you can put some logic and some structures around it to help yourself, it can only help you. So I think, you can't expect to learn like a child completely. To some extent, yes, but not entirely. So I think grammar structures do help to learn the language. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, thank you, Zasalan, for the question. We're going to wrap things up there. It's been so good having all of you join us today. Thank you all so much for joining.